Okay. Okay. So if you look into the sneak peek into the history of the evolution of electric vehicles, it is like I mentioned, it is not something very new. There has been lots of research which is happening from the past, and only in 1970, 1990, and by 1990, I think. Uh, Scientists were pretty much aware that something wrong is going with the use of fuel based vehicles, and there is an instance of 1972 to 1975 where in New York, I think during these 3-4 years, uh, there was a thick layer of carbon dioxide which was emitted by these vehicles, and it was encompassing whole of your city, and even in the daytime it looks like as it is evening, right? It was very cloudy, and during that time only scientists started finding out an alternate of because at that time these diesel and petrols were not uh, of the standards that we currently get. Right now we are into that BS6 stage, right? So Bharat is stage 6, Bharat is stage 4. These are all the stages. So these are all the emission standards that, okay, my if I'm using diesel and petrol, not uh, this much amount of nitrous, NOx, and particulate matter should be released in the atmosphere, right? So how do you reduce that? Now, during that time, lead, lead, lead is something which is very, very dangerous, and lead was treated into the diesel and petrol. Lead treatment, it was called, and because of that lead treatment, the emission, the amount of this NOx and particulate matter was reduced a bit. But at that time, nobody knew that lead would be so dangerous, right? At that time, the goal was just to reduce the amount of CO2 which is being released from NOx, which is being released after you use your diesel and petrol into your engine. So only, I think, after 20 years, it was found out that, because of lead, uh, bones in the childrens who were getting born after 1970-74, where these bones, uh, their bones have lead into that bone material, right? So the bone's strength was getting reduced, and some scientists also discovered that with the consumption of lead, your IQ level decreases, because it becomes a difficult task for your neurons to connect and transmit information from one neurons to other neurons, the neurons which is there in your brain, right? So the research for finding out a method through which we can actually reduce the emission, reduce the carbon dioxide emission and all in the atmosphere has been quite a long. But only, in 1990, it was decided that, I think, electric vehicles, and that too, lithium-ion batteries, uh, they they uh, they were having a very high amount of uh, power storage capacity, right? Even if you look on the side of lead acid batteries, because previously lead acid batteries were used, even lithium ion batteries at some instance were used, but they were not having that much amount of, first is storage, and second one is the what you call as how much power it can accumulate in a small space, right? So After 1990s, this fellow who got awarded Nobel Prize. I think I have mentioned about him somewhere. He was the some Gutenberg, or can anyone name who was the scientist who discovered lithium ion? Yeah, this one, John B. Goodenough, right? So he is the Nobel laureate who discovered lithium ion battery, and that too with much more power density. And only after that, the discussion on electric vehicles started rising up, and then we started to see many more models of vehicles coming into the picture. By 2010, it was very clear that these developed countries, they realized that all the mistakes that they have done in their development time during your 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, now because of that, the developing countries are now facing problem, because the climate crisis is there. Now if they impose a certain condition on developing countries, telling that, let's say for India is a developing country. Now if US says to India that, see, you cannot emit carbon dioxide more than this particular limit. Now the reply from the Indian perspective will be that, okay, it was okay for you to release carbon dioxide during your development days in 1960s, 17, and 80s, when you were developing, and now you are saying me, when I am there in my developing stage, to be a developed economy, and you are telling me that you stop the emission of carbon dioxide. Because see, once a country start to develop, it's not just uh, the emission from vehicles. Even during construction, whenever buildings are being constructed, there will be release of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, right? And India being a developing economy, everywhere you see the infrastructure development is going at a very, very huge and tremendous way. There are so many connecting transportation lines, and there are highways, and there are metros, and everything is being constructed day and night, and that will have certain impact on the overall carbon dioxide emission. So the thing is, developed countries knew this, that something like this is going to come, so why not start promoting electric mobility? So that's why you see Tesla being one of the player who started back in 2010. If it would not have been subsidy from the government, uh, sorry, if there would not have been any subsidy from the government, then it would be very difficult for Tesla to survive in the initial stages. Yeah, anyone asking any question? Right, so that's all. I mean, this is the timeline that we generally see in the evolution of electric vehicles. This is the general data. I mean, everybody knows that these countries have actually being very, very prominent enough to include electric vehicles. The reason being because they are more or less very, at the stage where the population density is not very high, and altogether, if you look into these countries, uh, where the policy implementation is not a very difficult task. In India, if you are going to introduce a policy, that is another thing, but implementing that policy is one major challenge altogether. So all these countries which has like less population and a bit what do you call, these are all developed countries, so they have a system of energy transmission in place, and they can very well rely on renewables and all for their energy consumption. So they have almost the figure right now is 49%. It is close to 60% now. Some countries have even adopted up to 80%. So all these countries you see, For China, I think if you look into the China, the stage where we are right now, I think this is 2022. And do you know, in 2022, which city in the world uh, was the number one city in terms of sell of electric vehicles? Can anybody tell me which city in the whole world was at number one in the selling of electric vehicles in 2022? कौन सा शहर हो सकता है? Again,
China?
no, I'm talking about city.
What's a city?
City is your Delhi. You go and find it out. Delhi was the number one city, surpassing New York and Bangkok in the sale of electric vehicles, right? So you can imagine the push that is there for the adoption of electric vehicles, and Delhi being a it's called model city because everything that has to happen happens here first, and then it bifold to other cities in India. So I think not only we have just thought about it, but we are also rolling at a very high speed. And if you look on the China was at the same stage where we are right now in 2010, right? So even if we want to, kind of get in parallel with the China, uh, if we are going it with the same rate which is currently we are going on, it is okay. We can surpass that by 2027, 26, 27, right? But yes, these countries have already experimented on the profit and loss, and what are the problems, challenges, what are the models. Any model that you see currently in India, I'm talking about business opportunities model, be it your battery swapping, be it your retrofitting, be it your right now you might be hearing lots of news about multi-model, what is called that multi-model dealership, multi-brand dealership model, multi-brand dealership model, right? So multi-brand dealership model is a thing of the past in China. They have already done that. What happens in this case is, previously what was happening, let's say that your father wants to take a Hero dealership. In that case, he has to deposit 1.5 crore to Hero, and then Hero will give its brand. He will register a company, some enterprise, put a Hero logo on his dealer's, store, and then Hero will say that, okay, you have to buy at least 100 bikes from me and keep that bikes in your dealership, and you have to do the business, things like that. And whenever I want, I can cancel that dealership. What happened with EV is, the concept of multi-brand dealership is that now companies are saying to the dealership owners that you need not to pay me 1.5 cr, you just pay me 15 lakh. You take six different, if you are taking a bike dealership, be it, I'm talking about bike, you take 6 models of electric bike, right? From me, there will be an aggregator. Let's say I am the aggregator. I will talk to 20 companies who are there in the electric vehicle. I will tell them that, sir, I want only one bike of yours. Although I will have, see, I'm a big distributor now, so I will have many numbers of vehicles now. Now, if I'm giving to a dealer, I can give that dealer just one bike of each model. So in total, there will be, for him, there will be almost 6 to 7 or at max 10 bikes he need to keep in that dealership. And whenever there will be a booking for a bike, or let's say in a week, whatever x number of bikes has been booked, that he will put a request to me as a distributor. To me, he will put a request, and I will then go and give him the 5 or 10 bikes at that point, right? He can sell it to the customer. Now you will ask me, sir, why this model was not possible in the previous days? पहले भी तो ऐसा हो सकता था कि बजाज के कुछ बाइक्स रह जाते, हीरो के कुछ बाइक रह जाते, कुछ आपके एलएमएल के बाइक्स रह जाते, बट व्हाई नाउ? कोई है? एनीवन कैन टेल मी व्हाई नाउ, व्हाई नॉट प्रीवियसली? Why now? Because electric vehicles do not require a very huge infrastructure for its assembly. In electric vehicles, less number of components are there. That you agree, right? There are less number of parts in electric vehicles as compared to your IC vehicle. True? So, if less number of parts are there in electric vehicles, I can very well set up a assembly unit. If I'm talking about Andhra Pradesh, I can put up an assembly unit in Visakhapatnam. I can put a assembly unit in Kakinada, wherever. I mean, these small districts can also be a assembly unit for electric bikes. And these assembly units, these parts will come and they will be assembled there, and then from there it will be distributed, right? So the time which it would be taking, if that would be the case, let's say 10 years, 15 years back, at that time, Hero would be manufacturing its all vehicles in its Rajasthan plant. Mahindra would be making all its vehicle in the Chennai plant. Kia will be making all these plants in the Andhra plant, right? So likewise, if they want to give it to this dealership, they have to spend a lot of time in the transportation, right? So that was something that was not very viable at that time. But now, because electric vehicles are not something which require more of investment on the assembly side, that's why in every state there can be an assembly unit, and from that place you can very well transport it to your local districts, right? So great. Okay, this is just the data of sale of electric vehicles in India. You can just, whatever I told, it is just the idea behind it. Unveiling of National Electric Mobility Mission Plan at PM Resident on 9 Jan 2013. So it's not just the BJP government who is the brain behind electric mobility. It was a discussion which was already going on, and irrespective of the party and all, the community has already decided that electric vehicles will come. And then after that, NITI Aayog came into the picture and they highlighted all this. But this National Electric Mobility Mission Plan was already there. So not to get confused about that. EV policy, if you look on the EV policy trend, which is there.
Incoming call from my new Airtel Sora.
Just give me a minute. Okay, so if you look on the policy, EV policy, which has been there in the Indian context, almost 2011 was the time where National Mission on Electric Mobility, this was drafted. In 2013, National Electric Mobility Mission Plan was launched, 2020. In 2015, FAME was introduced. Again, it was by NITI Aayog, with the inputs from NITI Aayog. FAME means faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicles. Please remember these short codes. For me, it would be something like haywire. मुझे बोलने में कोई नहीं, मुझे लगता होगा कि आपको फेम के बारे में पता होगा, बट फेम, whenever anybody asks you fame, you should remember the full form of fame, right? If somebody says NMEM, you should know that is National Mission on Electric Mobility. खास करके इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स में, और जब भी मेरा क्लास होगा उसमें बहुत सारे शॉर्ट फॉर्म्स होंगे. AIS होगा। होमोलोगेशन में तो आपको शॉर्ट फॉर्म्स मिलेंगे ही मिलेंगे। ऑटोमोटिव इंडस्ट्री स्टैंडर्ड्स है, गेजेटेड नोटिफिकेशंस हैं, GZ से उसको रिप्रेजेंट करेंगे। whenever I will talk about charging cables, charging connectors, then I will use CHAdeMO, CCS and all that. So at least आप एक तो पेज बना ही लेना जिसपे जितने शॉर्ट कोड्स हैं वो आपको क्लियर रहे। ठीक है, so FAME was introduced in 2015. Again, FAME India become member country of Electric Vehicle Initiative. 2019, FAME 2 was introduced. Now I'll discuss about FAME 1 and FAME 2, how these are important and what has been put forward under FAME 1 and FAME 2 policies. Right? I think I have already discussed about how India is going on the electrification side. It is very, very aggressive, and National Electric Mobility Mission Plan NEMMP 2020 envisions sale of 6 million electric vehicles. This is the time of around 2030. FAME India scheme faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicles by NITI Aayog incentivize EV ownership by subsidizing upfront cost combined with GST rate slashed. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि जो भी vehicles कोई कंपनी बना रही है, if that is registered under FAME, that vehicle, you know, आप एज्यूम करो कि मैं व्हीकल बना रहा हूँ, DIYguru इज मेकिंग सम व्हीकल्स। नाउ मेरा जो कॉस्ट है, द कॉस्ट विच आई विल इनकर, राइट, और लेट्स से द कॉस्ट आई एम चार्जिंग माय कस्टमर्स इज 1 lakh rupees for a electric two-wheeler. Government comes into the picture and they say कि DIYguru, you go and get your vehicle homologated or certified or get the FAME India scheme, right? And with this scheme, what government will do is they will give me 20,000 rupees to me, to DIYguru, telling that you charge less to the customer. You charge 80,000 to the customer and I will pay you 20,000 that you have incurred as a loss while selling to the customer. So in total, on a net, you are not incurring any loss. You are just giving at a discounted price, while the discounted money you are getting through the government, right? So this is what the FAME scheme is all about. But FAME has 4 focus areas. FAME policy has 4 focus areas. It is not just the subsidy. It is also about, these are the 4 focus areas: technology development, demand creation, pilot projects, and charging infrastructure. So all the charging stations which you see from the government side are from the FAME policy only. लेमैन लैंग्वेज में आप समझ लो कि फेम के अंतर्गत कुछ पैसे एलोकेट किए जाते हैं, कुछ पैसे फेम पॉलिसी में डाले जाते हैं। उस पैसों को मुझे यूज करना है इन चारों सेगमेंट्स में। आई हैव टू यूज दैट मनी इन ऑल दीज 4 सेगमेंट्स, एंड आउट ऑफ विच दिस डिमांड क्रिएशन, मतलब जो सब्सिडी वाली चीज है, इट कॉन्स्टिट्यूट ऑलमोस्ट 80% ऑफ द टोटल बजट। 80% जो पैसा है वो डिमांड क्रिएशन में लग जाना है, और जो 20% है उसमें आपको टेक्नोलॉजी डेवलपमेंट, जो भी आपकी रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट वाली चीज हो रही है, या जो आप अभी DIYguru से पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं, DIYguru, ASDC, ये सारे जो साथ आके ऑल टायर की आपको सॉफ्टवेयर जो फ्री में मिलती हैं, या प्राइस जो है कोर्सेज का वो इतना लो क्यों है और जगह आपको हाई मिलेगा, ये इसलिए होता है क्योंकि कुछ ऐसी कंपनीज हैं who are working in the skilling industry and they also get certain incentive from government. हमें भी कुछ मिलता है गवर्नमेंट से, फ्रॉम डिजिटल इंडिया फाउंडेशन, कि हम लोग अपने कोर्सेज का प्राइस जो है वो लो रखें, so that more and more number of skilled workforce can be made by 2025. So just like we are on a mission ki at least we can upskill at least 1 million people by 2025. So these are something that comes under FAME policy on technology development side, right? So this is technology development. Demand creation is your subsidy that you will get when you will buy an electric vehicle. Pilot projects क्या होते हैं? 2017 में, I think at that time not many of people or the students were aware कि electric vehicles में ऐसा कुछ होने वाला है. So at that time, Ola and this Mahindra combined together and they did a pilot run in Nagpur, right? So that was a pilot project. And then the fourth one that I told, charging infrastructure में government has to set up charging stations now. So that is there. This is the report from NITI Aayog, and they submitted this report to the government, telling that if the country in India transportation segment, right, the mobility segment is going to be the same way how it is going, right? 2015 में कोई इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल की बात नहीं कर रहा था, तो अगर 2015 से पहले जैसी चीजें चल रही थी, जैसा कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड इमिट हो रहा था और जैसी एनर्जी की कंजम्पशन थी, अगर वो चलता रहता तो बाय 2030 we would be requiring at least this much amount of energy requirement in million metric ton. 50 से लेके ये ऑलमोस्ट 250 तक पहुंचता. ये जो मैं एनर्जी की बात कर रहा हूं, ये है डायरेक्ट जो फ्यूल हम लोग परचेज करते हैं. whatever fuel we purchase from Middle East countries, or let's say Russia or Ukraine or any country which is supplying us oil, these oil imports will increase drastically if we will not switch to electric mobility. अगर हम लोग इलेक्ट्रिक मोबिलिटी पे स्विच कर जाते हैं, तो जो हमारी डिमांड 2015 में थी, that will remain same by 2030 as well. But if we are not switching, that is going to increase a lot. और जब भी I think मैंने डिस्कस किया हुआ इस चीज को कि जब भी कंट्री ऑयल इंपोर्ट करती है, whenever they are importing oil, they are putting a burden on itself. They are putting a burden on its financial system, because they have to pay all the oil import bills in dollars, right? And when you pay in dollar, you decrease your foreign reserve, right? And if you decrease your foreign reserve, your prices of other commodities will increase. That's why we start to see inflation. That's why we start to see price rise in everything that you buy, right? आप दिवाली है, दिवाली में इतने सारे ऑफर्स निकले हुए हैं, आप जाओ, जिसको एक चीज खरीदना है वो 3 चीजें खरीदता है, बट इवेंचुअली यू विल सी नेक्स्ट 2-3 months the price, the inflation is going to increase. और ये although there are many factors related to it, but I'm not saying that okay, US economy, dollar has increased because they have cut down all these blah blah and all that. That is more of an economy. But I'm talking about the perspective of from the perspective of import and export of components, right? Import and exports of oil, import and exports of, let's say, it can be anything that involves the exchange of dollars, right? So this is the transformation that we can see if we are going to use electric mobility, and this is the amount of reduction of energy consumption. On the carbon dioxide side, if we start to introduce electric mobility, this would be the reduction in carbon dioxide. If this line shows the transformation if we are using electric mobility as well. So what happens is, this is the FAME scheme part 2. I'm not discussing about FAME scheme 1 because that has already passed, and FAME scheme 1 had certain budget which was not spent, and it was then allocated to FAME 2. Sure. By 2023, FAME 3 was to come, but even now FAME 2 budget is not spent altogether, right? So you can imagine government has kept 10,000 crore rupees for incentivizing, for setting up charging infrastructure, for publicity, for education and all that purpose, and out of which Even if you talk about 2022, out of this 10,000 crores, only 60% has been utilized. So we are expecting that 2023 also, if FAME 3 is coming, some of the unspent budget from FAME 2 will be added into the FAME 3. Now, some of you may ask that why, sir, why government has this money and why it is not being utilized? Is there any reason that they are not able to utilize these funds properly? The answer is that you look into this chart, right? Almost 8,596 crore goes to your demand incentive, right? And sorry, any company who is eligible to get demand incentive, right? Who is eligible to get demand incentive will be getting this fund only when the vehicle which they have made uses 50%. Nowadays, currently it is almost 60%. So 60% of the component that is used to make that vehicle is sourced from the local vendors, right? Localized component. If that is the case, then only a company will be able to get the demand incentive. Now, what happens in India? Almost out of 100 vehicles, 85 vehicles are Chinese imported. What they are doing is they are importing the knockdown kits, like they will import light in a separate container, they will import tires, wheels, controller, motor, battery management system in separate container. They will come to India. Some import to Mumbai port, some import to Kolkata port. They will come together at a Delhi location or an Andhra location. They will put down all the component, they will assemble this and ready. So the government does not find that almost 50% of the component are also not local one. Recently, I think 1 month back, uh, a directive was issued from the Ministry of Transport to ICAT and ARAI. ICAT, I guess all of you guys know. If you don't know, please go and search. This is the father of all the vehicles which is being tested. Any vehicle which come into the Indian market, they either have to get tested from ICAT or ARAI, right? So that is a mandatory thing for a vehicle to get tested and certified. So what happens when these vehicles are if these vehicles are not locally made, then these ICAT and ARA cannot give certification. And some of the companies, I'm talking about companies like Hero Electric, talking about companies like Okinawa, 1 month back they have got into this issue that they were selling Chinese made vehicles, and they were getting subsidy from the government. So what government did is they issued a notice to this ICAT telling that I know there are some of my friends are there in ICAT as senior engineers. They told me they were given this directive that in just one night, the directive was issued at somewhere around 10 p.m. in the night, and at 12 or 1 they have to buy a vehicle from any customer. They have to buy Hero vehicle and Okinawa vehicle. If that customer is asking 1 lakh rupees for that vehicle, okay, good to go. You just go pay the amount, get the vehicle to the lab and check whether the components are locally made or not. Because what these companies were doing is they were homologating, they were testing these vehicles at the ICAT center or ARAI. They were being passed and they were given the FAME certificate and the sticker, but just one model they will make from the Indian vendors, and the rest of the model which is there in the market would be the Chinese one, right? So, nowadays both of these licenses have been cancelled, and that's why, because not many vehicles are coming into this category. That's why the budgets are not being spent. Got it? Are you finding it interesting enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's say that uh, you are a company who is making a two-wheeler, a three-wheeler, four-wheeler strong hybrid vehicle, electric bus, or anything. So what is the amount of incentive that you can get from government, right? So this is the slab. According to this slab only, the incentive is given, right? Try to understand this slab. For a two-wheeler, approximate size of battery in kilowatt hour is 2 kilowatt hour. For a three-wheeler, 5 kilowatt hour. For four-wheeler, 15. For four-wheeler strong hybrid vehicle, 1.3. For electric buses, 250 kilowatt hour, right? And depending on this particular battery capacity, the incentive is calculated. So 20,000, 50,000, 1 lakh 50,000, 13,000 and 50 lakh. Now there is also a figure that government has kept, that this is the maximum number of vehicle we can subsidize. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है कि मैं 5 लाख व्हीकल बना लूँ और 5 लाख पे मैं सब्सिडी ले सकता हूँ. There has been a particular number which has been allocated from the government कि इतने ही vehicles के लिए आपको सब्सिडी मिलेगी, and this will be on the first come first serve basis. ठीक है. Now इसमें ये भी रिस्ट्रिक्शन है कि जो व्हीकल है उसकी मैक्सिमम एक्स फैक्ट्री प्राइस इंसेंटिव अवेल करने के लिए इस बैंड में होनी चाहिए. अगर कोई बस है तो वो 2 करोड़, अगर वो फोर व्हील स्ट्रॉन्ग हाइब्रिड व्हीकल है तो बिटवीन दिस रेंज, राइट. सो 15 लाख, वो 0 से 15 लाख हो सकता है, ये 0 से 1.5 लाख हो सकता है. And then total fund supported from DHI for this particular segment is 2000 crores. So this is not something that will go to the vendor directly. This is the budget which has to be allocated to all the vendors, right? तो यही 2000 करोड़ में से सारे vendors को allocate होगा. ठीक है. So this is the thing. For three wheelers it is 2500 crore, for four wheeler it is 525 crore. So likewise, as per the demand, they have allocated these funds now. You are already aware of the startups who are working, startups on general awareness. These are all companies. I think if you look on the categories of electric vehicles in India, very clear. Those vehicles which are less than 250 watt comes under low speed vehicles. व्हीकल्स, इसमें पैसेंजर आएगा, कमर्शियल व्हीकल का कैटेगरी आएगा, और तब आता है आपको इलेक्ट्रिक टू व्हीलर विच इज हैविंग ए कैपेसिटी मोर देन 250 वॉट, देन इलेक्ट्रिक ऑटो, एंड देन हेवी व्हीकल्स. Let me open a new slide for you. Acha, okay. Let me cover this. Now, whenever you design an electric vehicle, there are majorly 3 expectations from electric vehicles. On these 3 parameters only, you measure the overall performance of electric vehicles. So, for example, this AIS you see here stands for something. Can anyone tell me what is this stands for? What is AIS stands for? This stands for Automotive Industry Standard. ठीक है. Automotive Industry Standards 039. You have to remember this only. So if you want to measure electrical energy consumption of an electric vehicle, how much electrical energy it will consume, right? Then you need to follow this particular standard. अब देखो, मैं एक इंटरेस्टिंग चीज आपको दिखाता हूँ. I will just copy this, open Google, and paste this. मेरी स्क्रीन दिख रही है आपको? My screen is visible? Okay. तो आप इसमें देखोगे, ये देखो AIS 039 रिवीजन 1 मैंने टाइप किया और आपको ये पूरी फाइल खुल गई। ये डेट भी दिखाएगा कि किस दिन ये अमेंडमेंट हुआ है इस वाले रूल में। और अब यहाँ पे जो है आपको सारी वो गाइडलाइंस जो हैं वो लिखी मिलेगी कि अगर कोई इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल है तो उसकी इलेक्ट्रिकल एनर्जी कंजम्पशन कैसे कैलकुलेट करनी है, राइट? इस पर्टिकुलर रूल बुक को फॉलो करके आपको अपने, if you are working with any company, you have to measure the amount of electrical energy. If that is the case, you want to measure the amount of electrical energy consumption, you will follow this annexer and abide by whatever is given in this annexer as a rule. ठीक है, इसमें आप there can be lots of iterations that you need to go, or everything will be given here. How do you prepare your vehicle? How do you operate your vehicle? What is the discharge of rechargeable energy storage system, RESS it is called. It is with respect to your battery and application of normal overnight charge and all that you need to see. So overall, to measure the electrical energy consumption, you need to follow a guideline which is issued by ARAI and ICAT. And if I'm mentioning this name, AIS 039 revision 1, you need not to do a lot of work by yourself. You can find that whole PDF. You have to abide by that PDF rules and regulations, and you calculate the measurement of electrical energy consumption, and then you put the numerical value in a photocopy of that sheet and send back to the ARA and ICAT for homologation along with your vehicle, so that they know that okay, you have done your homework, you have done this sort of experiment, and you find out that there was no flaw at all, right? So that's how all these things, AIS standards and everything flows by. When you talk about AIS 040 revision 1, it is the method of measuring range. In the previous one, it was measurement of electrical energy. In this one, it is the method of measuring the range in kilometer. So range is the distance that an electric vehicle can travel in one complete charge of battery. Range of the vehicle is equal to distance travel in full charge kilometer. अब अगर मैं इसको भी गूगल में सर्च करूं तो आपको पूरी की पूरी एक गाइड आ जानी है जिसपे आप देख सकते हैं, यू कैन सी what is the procedure that you need to follow to measure the range of your vehicle. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है कि मैंने खुद से जो है रेंज डिसाइड कर लिया, right? There is certain guideline that you need to follow to specify that particular range, because sometimes what happens, just because of marketing publicity stunt, these companies, they used to write something else, and once a customer buy, they used to get something else, right? Maybe let's say somebody has written 200 kilometers one charge our vehicles can go, and once the customer buy, they see that okay, it's just going 120 kilometer, right? And then it goes to the producer and says that hello sir, you said this much amount of kilometer while my vehicle, and they will say that no, we said that was an ideal condition, right? So if that is an ideal condition on which you have tested, or if it's a rough terrain or uneven terrain on which your vehicle has moved, depending on that, you have to point out the range properly. And then the third one is AIS 041 revision 1, where we measure net power and maximum 30-minute power. So representation of the curve as a function of motor speed and the power at full load for electric vehicle drivetrain. Maximum 30-minute power is the maximum power that an electric drivetrain deliver over a period of 30 minutes as an average at rated voltage. Any questions with this?
No, sir.
Just give me a minute. Sorry. Okay. So I think types of electric vehicles we have already covered in the last class. It's more like battery electric vehicles, plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, fuel cell electric vehicles. जो बैटरी होंगे उसमें आपको एक चार्जर कनेक्टिविटी होगा. जो प्लग इन हाइब्रिड इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल होंगे देयर विल बी टू कनेक्टिविटी, वन विद द बैटरी एंड वन विद द पेट्रोल डीजल टैंक. जो हाइब्रिड सिर्फ हाइब्रिड इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल होगा उसमें देयर विल बी नो कनेक्शन विद द बैटरी. It will be just the connection with the petrol diesel tank, right? And in the fuel cell vehicle everything remains same. There is no connectivity with the outside. Just to fill the hydrogen tank you need to use an extension. Other than that, within the vehicle only the electricity will be generated, and that's how this vehicle will be propagated forward. Once you talk about battery electric vehicles, this is the particular configuration that a battery electric vehicle uses. Sometimes you can use gearbox, sometimes not. That depends on you. If you need a greater torque, you will need a gearbox. And this is your motor. This motor is connected with the controller, and this controller will be either BMS or motor controller, both stacked together, or in sometimes BMS is stacked in the battery itself, right? So there will be a DC-DC inverter to convert the current, and DC to AC inverter, and then this controller will control what amount of charge should flow from the battery to the motor, right? So vehicles with motor as the driving unit powered by batteries. I mean, this is the literature you can go through. Battery electric vehicles, there will be traction battery pack, traction motor, inverters, BMS. Why traction? I think we have already discussed in the previous classes. Traction because it is transferring the power to the wheel, right? So it is countering the traction motion, tractive force that is generated from the earth via friction to the wheels, right? So that is why it is called traction battery pack and traction motor. All the motors, right? Any motor you take cannot be a traction motor. Traction motor has to drive your wheels, right? So traction motor is a type of electric motor. Inverters convert DC AC for AC motors, right? If you are using AC motor, then DC to AC will have to be converted via inverters, and then the BMS will have these features like SOC. SOC stands for state of charge monitoring. कितना तुम्हारा बैटरी चार्ज है, राइट? वो SOC के थ्रू देखा जाता है. टेम्परेचर मॉनिटरिंग, हाउ मच temperature your battery is currently having, it should be in a certain range so that the battery packs does not melt. And then there should be a cell balancing at all the time using BMS. Cell balancing means ki when you take a battery pack, there will be lots of battery cells in those battery pack. I will show you this. Anyways, sometimes else. So in those battery packs, what happens is all the cells, small cells are there. So let's, for example, in an Exxon vehicle, there will be almost around 2000 battery packs, battery cells. These cells will constitute a battery pack, and these battery pack will be having a BMS. Now, each of the cells which are there in the battery pack should be at the same voltage level. अगर किसी सेल में 0.8 का वोल्टेज है और किसी सेल में 1.2 का है, तो दैट इज डैमेजिंग फॉर द बैटरी पैक इटसेल्फ. So what BMS does is BMS makes sure that all the cells which are used in the battery pack are at the same voltage and current configuration, right? That is called cell balancing. When you talk about key components of electric vehicles, almost your right from your energy source, that is the battery, to the electronics and controls, to the electric machines, which is more of a mechanics. These are all the things that constitutes an electric vehicle. Now, as far as the degree of hybridization is considered, those vehicles which have no electric battery, or high range of motor introduced in this are called micro hybrid vehicles. And then comes the mild hybrid vehicles, medium hybrid vehicles, full power hybrid vehicles, and plug-in hybrid vehicles. So in case of plug-in, there will be a pure electric drive. मतलब जो plug-in की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ वो आपको ये बात कर रहा हूँ, this one, plug-in hybrid vehicle, where both of these oil and battery charging facility is there. So in that case, even if you are run out of your fuel, you can very well rely on your electric drive to kind of make sure that vehicle runs on the road. And this operation happens at a high voltage operation, almost around 100 to 500 volt DC, with a motor capacity of 15 kilowatt. So these plug-in hybrid vehicles are little bit bulky in weight. Why? Because both of these are there in the vehicle itself. IC configuration भी है और इलेक्ट्रिक वाला configuration भी है, तो ये ज़्यादा बल्कि हो जाता है. आप कुछ ऐसे व्हीकल्स देखते होंगे, जैसे अभी नई जो भी अर्टिगा आई हैं, on the Ertiga itself you will see it is written hybrid, right? That does not mean कि Ertiga is a hybrid vehicle. That comes under mild hybrid vehicle category, because in that vehicle this regeneration principle, because of energy regeneration, that is brake energy regeneration, the electricity is being transferred back to the battery, and that's how your battery is getting recharged, right? So in that case you can refer to it as a hybrid, but it is a mild hybrid. Everyone is okay from this slide? Any confusion with this? Please make yourself clear.
सर माइक्रो एक बार समझा दीजिए.
माइक्रो, अच्छा, माइक्रो में क्या है कि इसमें भी बैटरी है और बट इसमें रीजेनरेटिव ब्रेकिंग नहीं है. मतलब जब भी आप व्हील्स को ब्रेक लगाओगे तो व्हील से जो एनर्जी, व्हील के रोटेशन से जो एनर्जी ट्रांसमिट होनी थी बैटरी को, वो नहीं हो रही है, बट इसमें ऑटोमेटिक इंजन स्टॉप एंड गो है. मतलब कि जब भी मेरा इंजन, जब भी मेरी व्हीकल आइडल है तो वो इंजन स्टॉप कर देगा टू सेव द फ्यूल in my vehicle, right? जब भी उसको जरूरत पड़ेगी तो वो ऑटोमेटिकली इंजन को फिर रन कर लेगा, right? Depending on my requirement. That comes under your micro category, where your energy regeneration is not there, neither any integrated motor is there, ना ही कोई pure electric drive है, ना ही power charge from grid है. So ये एकदम से lowest level of hybrid version इसको बोलते हैं. You can assume it as a full vehicle. अभी जो पुरानी कुछ मॉडल्स मारुति की है जिसपे आपको हाइब्रिड दिखने को मिलेगा, या होंडा के कुछ ऐसे व्हीकल्स हैं जिसपे यू कैन सी हाइब्रिड, दे वुड बी माइक्रो इफ रीजनरेशन ब्रेकिंग इज नॉट देयर. फॉर एग्जांपल आई थिंक आप एक बार गूगल में सर्च कर लो माइक्रो हाइब्रिड, आपको बहुत सारे मॉडल्स. Mahindra Scorpio is micro hybrid. This is micro hybrid, right? Depending on each and every manufacturers, depending on what level of hybridization they have done. So इस केस में आप ये एज्यूम कर सकते हो यहाँ पे रीजनरेटिव ब्रेकिंग से एनर्जी जो है वो बैटरी को नहीं जा रहा है, राइट? It is automatic engine stop and go sort of thing they have implemented in this.
Okay.
Now, if we talk about the functioning of electric motor, this is how the motor functions. Motor, mechanical energy flows from the motor to the final load, that is the wheel. This motor is having connection with controllers, having connection with power modulators. Now, this motor will have sensory input from the controller. So, controller will decide, how the motor speed should be regulated. And again, this motor is connected via power modulator for electrical energy flow. ये power modulator ही power supply करेगा motor को so that it can run, right? But how much should it run and at what speed should it run will be decided by controller. Right now, this you see controller has connection with almost all of these small components. It is having actuation command. It gives actuation command to power modulator. It receives sensory inputs from the motor and power modulator, and then there is a battery DC voltage source which is transferring its sensory inputs to the controller and also transferring electrical energy flow to the power modulator. So this is the general configuration of functioning of an electric motor. Now this is where you see CAN communication. CAN communication happens with the display panel, where you are able to see the the motor speed ratings and battery percentage and all through CAN communication on a display device. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let's deep dive on the homologation. I think that will be too much for today. What I'm doing right now is I'm sharing this slide for you to go through once, because there are so many AIS standards you need to remember. Once you get through these AIS standards, I'll be in a comfortable position for you to explain all these things. But we can cover that in the coming classes. This is just a history of battery. The good part about battery is that currently a new model of battery, which is called glass battery, the same person who invented lithium ion battery is now working on glass battery. So it is just a matter of time. Very soon we'll be able to see glass batteries with much more higher amount of energy absorption capacity and durability and all that. So a lot more inventions will be happening on the battery side itself in coming years. Things are just to see. Why homologation is needed? I think the main concern for us was to get into the homologation part, but it was necessary that we cover homologation first, the basics of the homologation, because it is important for you to understand these principles as well. And see, when we go to a testing agency and we ask them that, you sort of do the homologation for my vehicle or for any vehicle, and if the agency is doing homologation, there is a reason behind it. The reason is not just all the vehicle should be on a same standard, should be of the same standard. It also take care of the fatalities which could happen if these components are not tested properly, right? You designed a model by yourself. You are saying that you have designed the best model altogether, and you go to the market and people start buying these vehicles, right? There should be an intermediary agency which can test and validate whether your model is whatever you are telling to the customer is correct or not, right? So these are uh, some of the things that homologation makes sure that these all things does not happen. There can be some standards related to noise pollution, there can be some standards related to telecommunication. I will tell you an incident. In Norway, a vehicle was passing below a 12,000 voltage wire, and all of a sudden the vehicle lost its power, and it come to a standstill. And you know there was a fatal incident that happened because of the sudden braking of the vehicle toppled, right? So why this happened? Because of the electromagnetic interference, EMI it is called. Electromagnetic interference plays a very important role in electric vehicles, because electric vehicles run on almost 240 voltage, and at this particular amount of current and voltage, if a very high voltage wire is going overhead of yours, that can cause an electromagnetic interference with the vehicle which is passing nearby, right? So if electromagnetic interference is not being tested properly, that could be a very hazardous for let's say public. So that's why we take care of the homologation, and that's why you need to make sure that your vehicles pass these tests. What is type approval? As far as the type approval is required, it is more on the side of what type of vehicle your EV is. It can be a L1 vehicle, it can be a L2 vehicle, it can be L3 vehicle, it can be a passenger vehicles, it can be four-wheeler, two-wheeler, three-wheeler, n number of types you have. And they used to test what type of vehicle it is. COEP is checking production or manufacturing tolerance affecting vehicle emissions. So even if there are certain aspects related to the emission of the vehicle that is being tested in EVs, mostly COEP is not very in demand. But if it's a hybrid vehicle, then vehicle emission will come into the picture. COP. What is in-use testing? It is reliability of component over a period of time. It is more related to the fatigue failure of vehicles. So in-use testing is done during your homologation. So how much distance your vehicle can cover without having any failure, that is more called as in-use testing. Uh, the Indian type approval that we see, is basically modeled on the European system. Why European system? Because in Europe also we follow the same sort of configuration of driving the vehicles as well. And the EV standards are also a derivation of the European standards, because in Europe this has already been done. They have already discussed every pros and cons, and that's why we derive these standards from Europe. And because of this derivation, even I think our Indian constitution is also a derivative of lot many other countries. So because of that only, your battery testing standard, which was there previously, was also taken from European standard, right? And that's why you start to see so many incident of the battery fire and all that, because it was not a standard which was very much for the Indian uh, weather. And then only BIS came into the picture, Bureau of Indian Standards, International Standards, and they said that they will devise one more uh, standard for batteries. And then again AIS 156 is now being released for the battery testing, in-use testing. So I think we are all learning. It's a learning phase, because India is at the stage of entering into the electric mobility. After 4 5 years, you will see that all these standards have been very well regulated and everything will run quite smoothly. But currently there are lots of revision which has done, and there are two committees which are basically involved in all of this. First is called Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, and the other one is your CMVR Technical Standing Committee. It is called CMVR TSC. CMVR full form is Central Motor Vehicle Rule, right? Standing Committee on Emission is SCOE, right? So Ministry of Road Transport and Highways assisted by two committees over all the type approval schemes, and they used to input all the data related to, one is related to emission and another one is related to other standards. All these regulations are made on these four pillars: environmental protection, pedestrian occupant safety, energy conservation, and consumer comfort. I mean, focusing on all these four pillars are the vehicle regulations being made. Let's do this in the next class. Till then, just a bit of slide if we can go through, that will be wonderful. And yeah, so we'll continue the next in the next class. Done. Till now, any questions to ask? Okay, so no assignment as such for next class, but I have already messaged in the WhatsApp. It would be wonderful if you guys do a comparison of, yeah, anyone?
Yes,
If
sir.
you do the comparison of at least an Nexon and MG, so
Yes,
that
sir.
you will also get an idea. Have you done?
Yes, sir.
Oh, great. Chalo, done. I will see in the next class. I thought nobody has done that. I will see to that in the next class, and we'll have a discussion for around half an hour, so that you can very well correlate whatever we are learning right now. Done, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Let's meet next week, and till then, happy Diwali to all of you.
Thank you, sir. Happy Diwali.
सर
एक मिनट, हाँ बताओ।
सर वो जो आपने एआई रूल्स जो बताए हैं अभी वो सारे सर सब कुछ करना पड़ेगा, याद करना पड़ेगी क्या?
कौन से जो मैंने एआई स्टैंडर्ड्स बताए हैं?
जी सर, जो आपने स्टूडेंट्स बताए।
देखो, अगर कोई ऐसे कंपनी में काम कर रहे हो या कोई स्टार्टअप्स है जहाँ पे हेलो,
जी सर।
हाँ, जहाँ पे व्हीकल की टेस्टिंग वगैरह होनी है, तो वहाँ पे आप one by one you can go through all these AI standards, but not right now. Just know कि इस चीज के लिए ये वाली स्टैंडर्ड यूज होती है। स्टैंडर्ड्स याद रखो कि AIS 139, AIS 142, AIS 143 का क्या सिग्निफिकेंस है।
थैंक यू सर।
ओके।